Remember, all on the screen. Any of it on your laptops? Bang. All right, if you're doing your notes on your laptop, that's okay. Your notes would be better on paper, but I'm not going to make you change that. Remember, if you're in my class next time, you're going to be on paper. So today what we're going to do is we're going to continue our look at patterns, right? Because remember, we have an assessment, a test about patterns coming up soon. The second week, if we can get it done, I think we can get it done next week, I think, is what I want. If not, then we'll do it the week after, all right? But I think we'll be ready for it. So we're going to look today at predicting future terms. And we've done this kind of work before, right? Where we said the 2001st term would be, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be substituting. Substituting means what? So you
replace another number with something else.
Right. So we replace some unknown number with some number they give us, right? And remember that we told you there's a golden rule that anytime you're replacing, you always put the number in a what?
Bracket.
In a bracket. Good. Now, Education Perfect doesn't always do that, but I want you to. They mention specifically that you have to use the multiplication symbol, but remember, I know where you're going, and so it's a good habit. It's good to get in good habits now instead of having to break habits later, right? Okay? So let's keep that in mind. When you see some of the rules that are a little bit different in Education Perfect than what I taught you, feel free to ask me about it and say, hey, this is the way they did it. Why would I do it your way? I'm okay with explaining it, but also remember, I've taught all the way through to the end of university level maths, so I know where you're going, right? So you can trust me. So buy that? Good. Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at predicting future terms, and that simply means plugging in the numbers, substituting the numbers, and then evaluating. Remember, evaluate just as that math term that means do the math, right? Okay. So let's go to our Education Perfect. Okay. So remember last time we wrote rules to find a pattern, and we used that differences rule to be able to find the pattern. First, we took our t values, which is the numbers from the pattern, and we subtracted them to find the common difference. Remember that? And that common difference became the multiplier for our n. But then we had to go back and look at our numbers to see if we needed to add or subtract something from that to make it work every time. Yeah? And then make sure you test not just the first number, but at least another one, or two would be better, right? As in your pattern. So we'll look at that again in case you're a little foggy on that. So we can write a rule to describe a pattern, and it's useful because then we can find future terms. So it's really easy to write down the first 5 terms, maybe, of a pattern. But what if you want the 2003 term? Do you want to have to write them all down? Or draw a bunch of matchstick houses? Or do dodecahedrons? Sorry, it's the only one I could think of. It would be difficult to do all of that, right? So what you want to do is you want to be able to use the pattern and to evaluate any number. And that's what we're going to look at today. And again, we've kind of done it, a little bit of it. So suppose we want to find the 804th term in a sequence. Do you want to count out 804 when the pattern is 3n times 3m minus 7 or whatever? So you don't want to do all of that for all of those. But if you have the rule, then it's pretty easy to find them. So here we go. Here's a sequence, and they've already given us the rule that t is equal to 5n minus 1. So we want to find the 804th term in this sequence. And we've talked about how to do that, right? If it's the 804th term, is that a t value or an n value?
T.
Be careful. Right, 804th is a number, right? That's telling you a place value when you see that th, right? And remember your chart? It had n's and t's, right? where n's were the number, so the first one, the second one, third one, fourth one, right? So if you see a value written like that, if it's 804th, then it has to be an n value. Now, what if I said to get 900? That would be a t value, a number value. So do you see the difference? So if it has that nd, like second, or th, fourth, right? Those kinds of abbreviations, those little letters there tell you that we're talking about a place value, okay? Not a numeric value. Make sense? Ever run a race? Yes?
So basically, depending on if it's a th or an nd, would it be like a number or a t?
Right. So that means, anytime it has those little clarifiers, that means that they're values that tell a number. Okay? All right? So they're called ordinal numbers because they tell you what order something comes from. But so that tells you that always tells you that it's an n value. In other words, this is the second number in the sequence. This is the fourth number in the sequence. Okay? So what if I said sixth? Is that an n or a t?
T.
No, sixth would be an n. Right, there you go. What if I said sixth?
T.
That's a t value. See the difference? Okay? Excellent. So if we want to find the value of a sequence, all we have to do is plug in that number in the appropriate place and then do the math. And since I know that this is an n value, all I'm going to do is plug it into this rule in place of the n. So it's going to be t equals 5. Now, the number is 804, right? I'm going to use it to replace this n, so that's where it's going to go. But 5n literally means 5 times n, right? So that means I need to put it in a what? In a bracket, because we need to make sure that it stays meaning multiplication. Okay? Now, in Education Perfect, they're going to tell you to do this. But remember, we're going to algebra later. I'm not going to know, does that x mean multiply or does that x mean some unknown number, right? So we really want to get in the habit of using the bracket instead, okay? So even though they tell you in Education Perfect when you're reading this to do it with the multiplication symbol, the x, let's not. Even though I know that they use the straight one and then the curvy one for the variable, let's just not use x for anything other than the variable x. Okay? All right. So now, once you've replaced that, all I have to do is do the math. And remember, doing the math means I have to apply the order of operations. The order of operations says I have to do what first?
Multiplication.
I have to deal with any parentheses or brackets first, right? Which means that multiplication. So that means take 5 times 804. Anybody want to give me a guess? Get a calculator? Sure.
4,020.
4,020. Hey, do you remember how she did that? Do you know how she did it so fast? Did you break it down? Break it into?
I did 8 times 5, and then I just added 0.
Yeah, she did 5 times the 80, or really 800, right? And then she did 5 times 4, right? And then added the two together. You can do that in pieces. Or you can use a calculator. I don't care which way you like to do it. Or you could take it off to the side and do it by hand, which would really make me happy.
That's what I was.
Okay? But of course, in the interest of time. So 5 times 804, right? 5 times 4 is 20. Carry the 2. 5 times 0 is 0. Bring down the 2. 5 times 8 is 40. There you go, right? However you get it done, right? When you're doing it on your own, you're going to have more time. And then all I have to do from that is subtract the what?
1.
And that gives me my t value. Okay? Remember, we've done that before, right? So it's just a matter of predicting t values. Okay? They're just going to walk us through this one. They perform the calculations, and they get exactly the same number that we did. Okay? So You could have counted all those numbers up. Just wrote the next one, written 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 the next one. But that means 804 numbers you'd have to write to get to the answer. Not fun. Okay. So here we go. We have a number sequence, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, etc. And they give us the formula t equals 2n plus 5. What we want to do is determine that's the 12th term in this sequence. So first of all, before we start, and everyone's going to do this. So do you all have paper?
Yes.
Everybody has paper? There's paper up here if you need some. Grab some. Okay? Now, because we're all going to do this, we're all going to do it together, but I'm going to ask you to do the steps. So if it's 12, does that mean you're going to put it in place of the T or the N? Which one?
The N.
The N, right. The 12th. Because 12, that TH tells you that it's the number of, right? That's a position value, 12th. So that means you're going to use it to replace the N. Okay, so let's pause. Okay, are we ready? Let's talk about what we did, what we've done, what we did. Oy. So much for my English skills. You have a question or?
I have what we did.
I'm sorry?
I have what we did.
Okay, hold on just one second. We're going to walk it through piece by piece, all right? Because remember, I want everybody, everybody to think about piece by piece. Now remember, we're starting off with smaller pieces in algebra. You're learning these smaller problems so that then you can expand it. But in order to do that, you have to be in good habits, right? So remember that as we go. That's why we work it through piece by piece. So the first thing is, we already know that our 12th means it's a place value, and so that's an N value for us, right? So all I'm going to do is replace the which letter? Just call it out, anybody?
N.
The N with what number?
12.
12.
In brackets.
Yes. But remember, can I just replace it with a 12 and that be right? No. Remember, we have to make sure we keep the operations true, so we'll use brackets to do that, right? And then plus 5. Good. Who wants to tell me what I have to do next? What's the next step?
Then we times by 5.
Pardon me?
Then we times 12 and 5. 12 and the 2.
There you go, the 12 and the 2. Right, we have to get rid of those brackets. That we know we just put them in there. We got to get rid of them. So the T's not going to change. The plus 5 isn't going to change. Okay? Who wants to tell me what 2 times 12 is going to be then?
24.
24. Excellent. Okay? Now I've gotten rid of the brackets. Do you see any multiplication and division? That would be what's next, right? No, actually exponents, but we don't have any of those. Okay? Any addition or subtraction?
Yes.
Yes. So what do I need to do?
We need to add 5 to 24.
Which is going to give me T equals what?
29.
29. So now for the 12th number in this particular sequence, T would be 29. All good? No, they give us a pretty easy one to do that time. Yes?
Do we have to work it out that way?
Yes.
You would explain to me what you mean by not working
I
out.
got the right answer, but I didn't do it how you did it.
What did you do?
So I did, I added on because multiplication, and then I added on to 12, and then I did it that way. So then,
Okay, so you added the 5 first?
no, I did 12.
I just don't think she did the,
Yeah, so you don't have to technically show every line of your work to get the correct answer. But again, remember that we start off small. Was the first word you ever spelled anti-disestablishmentarianism?
Yes.
Or was it probably cat? Or
dog
dog or something small? Okay? So, all right, settle down. So you see that when you're learning, writing it down properly is part of the learning process. Simply because it's going to get bigger and more complicated. So if you do too much in your head now, then when it gets bigger and more complicated, you're going to feel lost. So I would like to really see that. Okay? So yeah, even though you can get the answers, the correct answer by not doing it, I like to see that you can.
Okay.
All right? Okay. Do it for me. All right. let's see what else they have for us. So they walk us through this. So then they want the 16th term in this sequence. Ready? Go. Here's a new sequence. What's the 16th term? All right, now I'm going to ask you questions, guys. Okay?
I'm ready.
Did you have a question or do you have an answer? Hold on. All right, first of all, am I going to be, first of all, the number they give me is the 16th. So is that an N or a T? An N. I can tell it's a number or positional value because it's 16th, right? So I'm going to use that to replace the N. Okay? So, who wants to tell me what that's going to look like then when I replace it with this?
T equals 5 bracket 16 close bracket minus 3.
Excellent. Okay, good. Now, and again, you need to get in the habit of doing that because some of the problems that you're going to go to later will take up the whole board.
Oh no.
Not in this class. You'll get there. But do you see that being able to write it down and stay organized is going to be super important as you move forward? Okay? And so that's why I want you to do it now. Good habits now mean better life later. Okay. All right. Now, who wants to tell me what's next? Okay.
T equals 80 minus 3.
All right. So what you did was just take 5 times the 16, which gives me what?
80.
80, and then just bring down the minus 3. Somebody back there, what's next?
And then you go T equals 77.
Okay, can you tell me how you got that?
80 minus 3.
80 minus 3, which gives you 77. Sorry, I'm neglecting this side of the room, but I'll get you. All right, so there's our T value, right? So do you see the process that I want? I want you to write it out in the proper form. Then I want you to do the math step by step. Okay? Now, be careful because like even the ones where you're entering a line of working here, they'll let you get away with writing less and less and less and less, right? As long as it's correct, you can write almost anything there. So that's why I'm demonstrating the way I want to see it when I'm looking for it. When you're doing the assessment, that's the way I want to see it as we go. Okay? And again, you might not see why it's important right now, but you will. Okay? It's really important to be as precise as you can. All right. Let's look at the next topic. Whoops. My fingers, I can't make them do what I want them to do. Okay? So, here we go. Here on this one we have a rule, right? And so it's 2n minus 1, which means take 2 times whatever number minus 1. And so they did it for 1, which means it would be the what number? The first number of the sequence, right? So in other words, they've got a rule. What they want you to do now is to get the sequence. And so and you're going to do that by putting in, first you'd put 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, because they're only using 5 numbers. And you see that they've worked it out and got this sequence. Anybody tell me what this sequence is? What are those T's?
There's
a special set of numbers, isn't it?
It's like the uneven numbers.
Yeah, the odd numbers, you bet. See? Do you call them odds or unevens?
No, I think it's odd.
Odds? Okay. Just came out uneven. That works for me. It's the same way. Okay?
Looks good.
All right. Okay. So once you have a rule, then you can find any term. So here they're finding the 450th term. This cat gets hairier and hairier every time we do. Hairier and hairier. So, and then they work it out.
That's so cute.
You gotta take time to appreciate the kittens. Yes, okay. So here's one. We're gonna find the 98th term. Is 98 an N value or a T value? N, because it's an N value because of the TH, right? That tells you it's a place value. So, but in order to do that, they give us a pattern But what don't they give us? The rule, right? We don't know what t is equal to, so we don't have a rule. So, does anybody remember how what we get the steps are for finding the rule? What is the first thing I need to do when I'm finding a rule? I need to find remember, Sia? Right, the amount, which is called we're going to get by subtracting, so it's called a what? Difference. There we go. Find the difference in the t's, right? The t values. And there's going to be a common difference always because these are linear patterns, and that's a definition of a linear pattern. So if we do 9 minus 6, we get 3. Then the next one is 12 minus 9. You also get what? 3. Do 15 minus 12. We're also going to get what? 3. So that means our common difference is 3. And remember, that common difference becomes the multiplier in front of what letter? N. Good. So we already know part of this formula. It's going to be t equals 3n. But if you test that, our first number is 1. That means t equals 3 times 1, which gives us 3. Is that what our t value is for the first one? No. So that tells us we need to see what else we need to do to get the rest of the pattern. Okay? Then we do that by simply finding the difference of our first t value and the common difference times 1. Remember, we just go ahead and find that first one without doing any addition or subtraction. Right? But we're not looking for 3. We're looking for what? 6. So all I do is take 6 minus 3, which equals what? 3. And so it's a plus 3, right? It's a positive 3. So let's try that as our pattern. T equals 3n plus 3. Right? Remember, we just it's called the difference rule. So you're just finding the difference after you multiply it out. So now let's see if it works for the second one. So t equals 3 times 2 plus 3, which gives us t equals 6 plus 3, or t equals 9. Is 9 indeed our second number in the pattern? Then we did it, right? So we know it's the right number. Okay? So the difference of the first t, right, and the common difference is that
So the difference between 1 and 6.
So what we did was we found our multiplier was 3n, right? That's no big deal. So put in the 1 in place of that n and see what it gives you. So that's what I did here. Let me use a different color. Okay? That's what I did here. Just plug in 1. But that gave us 3. Is 3 what I wanted that number to be? No. What did I want it to be? So all I do is find the difference between that and the number I got. Right? So 6 minus 3 gave me a 3. That means I need not only a multiplier of 3, but also I need to add 3 to maintain the rule, to make the rule. Okay? So 2 differences. Good deal. All right? Now that you have the pattern, you can find any term. So the 98th term, we'll simply replace the n with what? 98 and show the word. Yes, you may. Sorry. I wanted you to be able to see these, but now you have. Okay? All right. So, there's your rule. Oh, sorry about... Wait a minute. I'll go back. You've got to see... I know we have it. Okay? So here we go. You wrote the rule, and there you can extend the pattern.
Oh, the cuteness. Oh. Ew. That's grumpy. No, it's cute though. How? That's my daily cat face.
All right? And so they calculated it out. That gives you 297. All right. And a happy cat. Okay? Excellent. So you can still get the rules. Let's look at our last thing. Okay, that's not a kitten. All right. have no idea what that thing
It's a
is.
sloth, right?
You think it's a sloth?
Yeah, it's like a pig.
Oh, it is a sloth. Those things, yeah.
It has
All right, there we go.
any sloth.
It's a
That's a
cat.
cat.
It's a smart
All right,
cat.
so here we go. Here's a pattern. Ready? Get your paper out and your pencil. So here's our pattern. We want to know what the 21st term is. So that means before I can find out what that term is, I first must determine what the rule is, right? So go. Okay, remember, we have a pattern for this. All right?
I got it.
Good. We have a pattern for this. The first thing we have to do, remember, our first step is to find that common difference, right? That's what we called it, the common difference. And we do that by subtracting the numbers. Yeah? So we're going to take the first two numbers. So that's 8 minus 2, which gives us what? 6. Then let's do these next two. That's 20 minus 14, which gives us what?
6.
Okay? So what number is our common difference? 6. Okay? All right. So we know then that our pattern is going to start out t equals 6n, right? Is everybody with me so far? Whatever that common difference is, it's going to be our multiplier. Now, we need to see, are we going to be adding or subtracting anything?
Subtracting.
Right? Well, we got to test it to find out. So what we'll do is use 1 for n. So, t equals 6 times 1, which gives us what number?
6.
6. So that's telling us that if that's our pattern, then that means that our first number should be a 6. But is our first number a 6? No. So if it's not, then we need to subtract those two, right? And remember, be careful, subtract the first number minus that answer. Right? So what was our first number?
2.
And what did we get as our first answer with 6? So 2 minus 6. If you don't do it in that order, you're not going to get the right thing, add or subtract. Okay? What does 2 minus 6 give us?
4.
What kind of 4? Negative 4. Right? So, remember your sign rules? 2 minus 4 is going to give you 2 minus 6, is going to give you a negative 4. So our pattern is not add 4, but what?
Subtract.
So it's 6n minus 4.
Wait, what?
What?
I
Well,
think
because, like, you see the negative...
Well, we're not finished. Yeah. But we had to get the rule first, right?
that is our rule. So, like, okay.
Okay. We need to see if we need to add or subtract something. Okay. So all you do is just use 1 in place of your n. Right. So we need to see. Is the common difference enough? No. Because if I just did 6 times 1, I don't get the 2 I want, right?
So what's the 2?
So, because 2 is the first number in the sequence. So it's the one we always use to base everything on. Okay? We'll look at some more, then you can practice them. All right. Now that I have the pattern, they wanted to know which term? 21st, which means it's a numeric, and means a place value, so that goes in place of what number? Or what letter, I'm sorry? The n. So 6 times 21 minus 4 gives me t equals what, guys? 126.
Which equals 122.
126 and minus 4, which is
102.
122. Okay? So, let's recap. So before we can do our patterns, let's get some just paper here for us. Remember, the first thing we need to do is find that common difference, right? Which I've been Okay? I can't spell it anymore. Common difference. That is not how to spell that. Anybody want to help me out? Difference. How's that? Okay. So, right? Just take the second number minus the first, the third number minus the second. Get the pattern, right? And at least do 2 of them so that you can find out that number. That'll give you the multiplier. And these are exactly the same things we wrote last time when we were doing the linear rules homework, right? So you get like t equals 5n, for example. Okay? Then, second thing. Just replace n with 1. Always use 1. It's the easiest number. You could do a different number. I could do the 4th number if I wanted to. But 1 is easier, right? Okay? And ask yourself, does that give the first number in the pattern? If so, yay, go, you're done, right? But it usually doesn't. Because there's usually something added or subtracted, right? If not, subtract that answer, that product that I got right there, right? Whatever number you got, from the actual first number in the pattern. And that'll tell you if you need, what you need to add or subtract. Okay? So, just, that's fine. I'm good with that. So, whatever you need to do to get that pattern.